Okay, guys, welcome to our second panel discussion on building and maintaining facilities. This is one of the panels I am very excited about because we have people who are at the top of the industry to come speak to you about what you can do at your school and what's possible. And also, we'll be talking while we're here. I do want to say we want to thank Daktronics, who is our video board sponsor for the convention. We have our beautiful video boards here, but there have been somebody with us going on 3 straight years of this convention, and we do appreciate them as you look up here. Also on board, we have 3 new companies that have joined us this year, and Mike Netzel has agreed to be our moderator. He's on the TAPPS executive board. He's the athletic director of Houston St. Thomas, and he has been involved in a lot of projects in and around, and again, he'll be running this panel. So thank you very much. Oh yeah, Nano Nation, please go by and see their booth. Melanie, I got you back there. Okay.
Thank you, and thank you for hanging around. These end of the day seminars are usually a lot like this. So I'm assuming that if you're staying, you may have something going on your campus right now, or maybe in the planning stages where you're going to be doing some things in the next year or two. So I think you're at the right place. We're going to try to answer as many questions as we can at the end, but I'll kind of lead this in a direction so hopefully some of those questions will get answered before you even ask it during the course of the presentation. So I want to introduce our panel. To my right, your left, at the end is Don Massey with Hellas Construction. Hellas does pretty much the whole gamut of everything from the turf to building out your stadium. Next to him is Chad Montgomery from Quality Hardwood Floors. Another big thing that we all have to deal with during the course of running an athletic department over the years is replacing or maintaining hardwood floors. To my left is Mike Vogelaar from Daktronics Scoreboards, obviously very well-known scoreboard manufacturer. Actually, I have that scoreboard on my football field. And next to him is Reggie Hill from NAH Sports Flooring. Okay, so what we want to try to do here is we're not going to get into the minutia. The minutia would be saved for you at the end to ask a specific question about something that you might have going on. But I want to start with some big topics, and we'll kind of pass it around to the individuals up on the panel to give some answers and hopefully some guidance to you through this process. So I want to start with Don, and this question would be for all 4 of you. I'll pass it around to all 4. When you're considering beginning a capital project, what would you say as a couple of your big rock, most important points when you're beginning a capital project, whether it be a full stadium, turf, flooring, scoreboard, what have you? And also, what common mistakes are made during that process of planning or mapping out how you're going to get this done? Don, go ahead and start. Sure.
Well, he's right. This thing's on. I think if we'd had this at Crickets, we might have had a better turnout. Next year, we'll take this across the way. When you get ready to start, and everybody in this room, and I myself, as a former private school AD, you've got to raise the money, right? And I get this call all the time. Hey, we just need some budget numbers, and we need to start doing this. And so, what I tell everybody is, first off, figure out who your stakeholders are, who are the decision makers in that process. Get those guys in a room and keep that circle really tight. Okay, we've all had the dad that catches you going across the parking lot. Hey, I'd like to turf the football field. What's that cost? And the coach is just, got the dog beat out of him on the football field, and he's not really thinking about that. And those conversations, and that can get loose. So keep that circle real tight. Have a vision for what you're going to do. Don't just think about that project. How does this affect our whole campus, the master plan of all that kind, and start there. And then you've got to figure out when do we want this to be in place? Do we have the funds in place to do that? And you kind of start your process there. And then very early on, you need to bring someone in who can be an advisor, someone that you've got a relationship with. Again, we run into this all the time. you know, Joe's family on the football team, his dad is an engineer, and so he's going to be our consultant. Or they're an architect, and we want to bring them in on the project. And those guys are great, and they're great people to have as a resource. 9 times out of 10, they've never built an athletic facility. And so their expertise, while maybe an engineer or an architect, may not be exactly what you want. And so the information you're getting is not always helpful, with the best intentions, but not helpful. And so I would say, start there. Get that circle tight. Get somebody in the industry that you trust, you have a relationship with, and let those guys help you start putting those blocks in place. Because it is a process. You've got permitting, you've got drawings, and all that. While that's going on, you also have to raise the funds.
Great information, and I don't have a whole lot to add to that other than the fact that I do come from a general contracting background, have been involved in some private school construction, and I think that is your first big hurdle is make sure you got the funds for what you need. After that, you need to do an assessment of your facility. What room do we have? What do we need? Where can we put it? And how does that project into the master plan of our campus, our community, whatever it may be? The only final thing I have to add to that is you need to look at, you get your facility built, your stadium, your gym, whatever it may be, what are the operating costs that are going to come on the back end that you're going to need to start budgeting for to maintain the field, the gym floor, whatever else it may be. So those are kind of the things you got to look at long term as well, or just what are the operating costs and the impact's going to be to your overall school budget after the fact. Can everybody hear me? Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause you
I've got a big mouth. So
loud and clear. I'm sorry.
Well, we'll talk loud.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask the same question, but a little differently to this side, in that you've got an existing facility. So maybe you're in a situation where you're on the replacement side of things, where you're trying to go from having a certain scoreboard to upgrade, either through LED or video board or whatever. Or if you're looking at a complete redo of a gym or a multi-use facility, what kind of things, let's start with you, Reggie. What kind of things would you be looking for to kind of think about as you're doing a redo project, a renovation?
First of all, I think the first thing you do is sit down and say, okay, what would I like to do, and then what's realistic. When Harvey hit, we had so many gym floors out there that got wet, and we're still, believe it or not, still doing something. And the biggest thing, most of your, as far as replacement goes, most insurances, FEMA, all of them, they're only going to pay for what was there. So don't think that you're going to go from a mediocre little, cheap little floor to a really nice, like NBA type floor, because unless you can find a way to find some more funding. The main thing is also to talk to somebody that does this every day, whether it be an architect, a consultant, whatever. Just like you guys coach every day or take care of your administration or whatever you do. It's something we do every day, every single day. We talk to them, So talk to them and then find out. A lot of times, I'll get people to call and say, okay, what would be the approximate cost of a gym floor put in or like that? So you start getting some numbers from there, and then you move on from there. And that it starts with due diligence. Once you do all that, then everything else starts falling into place. Right?
Yeah, to echo what the gentlemen have already said, I think you start with your homework, right, and also figuring out who your team is going to be. So creating that team, the decision makers, and then figuring out, hey, where do we want to go? Right now, we're currently here. This is our dream. How do you bridge that gap? And really, it's either trying to figure out what your budget is or, hey, what's going to be our marketing and advertising plan to be able to help cover up that gap? And so that's a big component of a lot of the stuff that we do, of course, with scoreboards, because whenever you see a scoreboard, you automatically assume there's going to be sponsors somehow, some way to be able to pay for it. So you got to make sure that you have a good, solid plan on that. So the other piece of advice I would give is do your homework right? Ask other different people what their experience is like. Don't just take what that salesperson is giving to you, because I think every salesperson from all the vendors and companies are going to tell you a great story, but truly it's what have been those individual schools' experiences been like. And if there's not a lot of testimonies that are glowing about a company, understand that there's a reason for that, versus the company that maybe there's a lot of great stories and a lot of testimonies. Make sure that you hold a lot of value in that.
Thank you. I'm going to ask this a little differently because I think that if I do it where I give you kind of open-ended, you can fill in a lot of blanks, and I want each of you to be able to say something to this. When you're thinking about questions that anybody out here should ask of a vendor when they're dealing with a vendor, regardless of what it is, whether it's floors, scoreboards, facilities, turf, whatever. If you had one or two key questions that you think that they've got to hone in on right from the very get-go, really from the first meeting, Don, what would you say it would be?
Yeah, so I would say in our industry, where we're doing sports facilities in the track and turf areas, is what are the qualifications of the company that just came by to see you? Did they have, how many fields have they had to replace? What's their warranty like? What is their customer service like after they've put in that? And do that deal. You need to know that, because you've just made a big investment, and you're looking at an 8 to 10 year relationship there. So I would ask those questions up front, and then ask them about their product and what is different about their competitor's product, because there are differences out there. Everybody says, well, turf is green and it all looks the same. Well, it's not. It's not. And so, again, going back and doing your homework, in all those areas, but find out what qualifies them to ask for your business.
My favorite question when I'm talking to a new client for a potential installation or a major product or project is, who have you worked for in my district? Who have you worked for that I know? I'll be more than happy to give you, your friends, other people you've coached with through the years. Our industry is kind of a niche industry. Floors, fields, we all know each other, just like coaches. You guys get into enough schools and play against enough coaches, you know each other. So, ask me, who else have you worked for? Give us your client list. We'll be happy to give you our references and let you call those people. We encourage you to call those people, because, it's a relationship. We don't want to come just put your floor in. We want to take care of that floor from now until that floor needs to be replaced, 30, 40 years from now. So ask for references and make sure you get good quality references from those people. Ask for people that are outside of your district. Maybe they don't have a good reference list in your district, or they've got people that they've got kind of a side deal with. It's not uncommon to have that. Make sure you get a multitude of references.
And I'd probably just piggyback off of that. Don't just get the references, because it's really easy to get that list, but actually call them,
Yes.
email them, whatever it is, because anybody can generate that list, but those people will, if those are the absolute best experiences and people that are going to sing their praises, if they have anything negative to say, that's the best of the worst, right? And so that's really telling. The other thing I would say is, as a buyer on y'all's side, you want to be able to ask the vendors again, not only, hey, where have you guys done, but hey, what are you guys not good at? Where are your weaknesses? Because we should be able to answer that quite confidently and tell you, and then be able to also tell you what our solution is to that. All of us have weaknesses, and that's an okay question to ask. Hey, where are you guys growing? What have you guys? What's one of your biggest screw-ups, and how have you guys fixed it? Because there's going to be an issue with whatever product it is. You're always going to have issues. But the real differentiator between a good business to partner with and a not good business is, how did they make it right for you? And so if they can't do that well for other customers, why are they going to do it for you? You can't expect them to change them. So those would be the questions that I would ask.
Okay. Also, too, the first thing that me was like, okay, what are you going to be using that floor field for? Is it going to be mainly football? Is the floor going to be mainly basketball? Or is it going to be volleyball? Or is it going to be a multi-purpose? You've got to figure out there what you're going to do with it, because that is going to determine what gets put in there. And, I know just in the basketball floor industry that, you're going to have volleyball in there too, if you're going to have, all kinds of stuff, but you have a lot of facilities that use it for night basketball. You're going to have guys my age, old guys playing on it, and got to realize you got to clean up blood after them and stuff like that. There's a lot of things that go into a decision of buying something and doing that. Also, to piggyback on what he said, I agree. It's okay. Everybody will give you a list of where everything went right. Ask for the list where things went wrong and how you would reply to it. Okay? And say, okay, have you ever had a failure? That's a good question to ask. And when you do that, okay, how did you take care of it? So go from there.
So I'll ask this to all of you, and I'll let you kind of jump in on this just as you want to. But I think one of the things that we have the benefit of now, because of the way our industry is set up, and so many of our schools put a lot of value in their athletic facilities, is site visits and an opportunity to get off your campus, to go to somebody else's campus, to kind of see what it looks like, how it looks on the field, how it operates, and really talk to the customer at their home base where they're comfortable. And they would probably pull you aside and tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly. Do you guys utilize site visits? Is that something that if you are dealing with a client, would you expect the client to ask you to do that? And is that something that you guys welcome and really look forward to? Or is it something that you offer out there right up front and say, I want to take you someplace to show you what we can do?
So I'll start. We do that frequently. We know obviously where our fields are. We feel like it's really important to not take you to the brand new field that we just installed 2 weeks ago, because those always look pretty. So we try to take you to a field that's 5 or 6 years old, 7 years old, so that you can see what your product is going to look like 6, 7 years down the road. And what I try to do, and some of the people here in the room we've done site visits with, I'm going to contact that athletic director at that facility, let them know we're coming as a courtesy, and then I'm going to ask them to take you as our customer on a tour of their facility. And I'm just going to stand back and let those conversations happen, because that's when the real dialogue and the questions get answered. Because if I'm standing around, that's when everybody gets a little uncomfortable and they don't want to ask the tough questions. But if they can walk down to the other end of the field and look and say, yeah, we weren't really happy with this, but they came back and fixed this, and so that's what we try to do to be fully transparent. We want you to see the best and the worst of it, so that you know what you're getting down the road.
We recommend that all the time, going out to the different sites. And then we'll even invite people to come to our manufacturing plant to see the investment that we're making in, our reliability lab. Just the millions of dollars that we try and break our equipment up there so that it doesn't fail on you. We want you to see the investments instead of just the final product that you see. So we try and be, like you said, transparent through the entire process about everything.
Agreed. Yeah. We do the same thing. But I think if you don't, look at the company and how long they've been in business too. If they're not doing the right thing, they're not going to be in business long. I mean, it's just that simple. So be worried about that.
Which then will come back to any type of warranty.
Yeah.
If the business is no longer in business, and that warranty doesn't matter, and then you've got an even bigger challenge on your hand when something breaks. Not a question of if, but when. And so you want to make sure that they're reputable for a long term.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to it is, again, let you choose who you go to visit. We'll give you a list, but then you pick and choose, because again, the company you're dealing with may try to give you their top 5. Get a long list, kind of take a few bullet points at it and say, I want to go to this one and this one. That way you can kind of see the gamut of what they've done instead of maybe a couple of their highlight projects.
Now, one of the things that happens a lot is in all schools, whether you're a big school or small school, is our needs happen faster than our ability to necessarily fund those needs. Our department's growing. We're having success. We have more kids in the program. It could be any number of things. We have more camps that we're running in the off season to attract kids to our campus. So we may not necessarily have the money to do what we need to do right now in order to take that next step as an athletic program. So, you know, as it relates to flooring, scoreboards, and full facility, Reggie, I'll start with you. I mean, you guys have options for people to sit down, and do you often get into those discussions with clients about how to finance deals and find the money?
Well, yeah, I mean, yes and no. Most of the time when we get calls, they have a pretty good idea. They go ahead and
Right.
either that or they're calling us and saying, okay, we're starting a fundraiser. How much do we need to raise
Right.
or something like that?
Right.
And then also to one of the nicest things I think about any kind of purchase, you can find out a lot of things on the web. I mean, you really can find out just all kinds of questions to ask before you get into that. I mean, you know, there's all kind. I mean, Daktronics, and not to pick on it, but I mean, you know, you can look at any, you know, Final Four game or whatever like that, and you know, you're going to see that name. Look for reputable, you know, companies. The company we represent, Robbins, same sort of deal. You know, there's, and all these guys, they wouldn't be up here, wouldn't be in business very long if they didn't represent somebody that had, you know, really good products. So that's what, you know, you've got to understand that all those people that start looking at those things, you've got to start there. Look at the background. You know, I think websites are all pretty well designed to give you a warm fuzzy, but go a little further than that.
Right.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. I was going to say when you're looking at a project and you have a situation where you really have a need.
Yep.
And it may be a want, but it's also a need.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times the ability to get that cash, depending on the size of the school, you know, a bigger school might have a little bit more free-flowing cash, or bigger alums might be able to donate or whatever. What creative ways, or do you get into those discussions with clients about creative ways to be able to afford what they want and still feel like they're not, you know, mortgaging their life?
Yeah, it's a great question. So that's exactly what I do. I run the Daktronics Sports Marketing Division, and so for anybody that's interested in Daktronics equipment, even before they purchase the equipment, we'll sit down with you. We'll help put together an entire master marketing plan with you. We'll do the consulting. We'll help put together marketing packages, go on some of the different sales presentations with you to generate the money. And if you generate enough revenue to purchase the equipment that you wanted, then we just ask that you purchase it from us instead of a competitor. Hey, if we help you cross the finish line, just go with us. And so we try and help remove that obstacle of, gosh, we really need or want it, but we don't have it. And so we've got to generate it first, but we have no idea how to do that. And so we've tried to remove that barrier. And then also educating people on lease to own options or financing options, you know, working with either a local, financial institution or partnering with us through some of our lenders that we have of, hey, if you can spread that payment over 5 years, instead of having to pay for a $60,000 piece of equipment all up front, you think you could find, you know, $12,000 a year for the next 5 years? Because I think we could help you do that. And then all of a sudden that task, that big, gosh, that'd be a great want, but there's no way we could afford that. But all of a sudden, not only become realistic, but it's a value proposition. We should be making money off of it every single year. So again, video boards and scoreboards are a little bit different than some of the larger initial investments, but that's how we've addressed it.
About yourself?
Little secret of our industry is we all are in this business to make money, and you know we've got to be profitable. You know, so through that, we're also here to help. And I think the biggest thing that we run into is we do get these questions all the time. Hey, we want a new floor, and we want this, and we want this, and we want this. You know, and a lot of times it's kind of that 35,000 foot elevation looking down that they're wanting. If we can start that relationship, and we know the smaller details that will save you money, especially on a new floor installation. You know, if we can get down to that level where we can talk about those type of things and educate you mainly, but obviously we understand that you don't know all the small details of floors or scoreboards or fields or those kind of things. Then we can start to fine tune what that budget number is. Obviously, we all want the Cadillac, and we just may not be able to afford it when it comes to budget. So if we can make sure and figure out those fine details, it'll help us get a budget that's realistic, that we can stick with all the way through the design process, and not come in. That's the thing that I hate to do is to have to come in at the last minute and say, we've got to increase this budget because of X, Y, or Z. Doesn't look good for us. Doesn't look good for the district or the school when you're having to go back out to those donors and those vendors and get additional money. So, we just need to make sure we ask the right questions and we know where we can be at the end of the game.
Yeah, I just to echo what they've said, there's always opportunities to work out financing things and doing that. I know that heads of school and CFOs of schools just start cringing when you talk about those kinds of things. And sometimes doing a facilities assessment, and again, having somebody that does that on a daily basis coming in, just did a cleaning on a field that, they're probably 2 years away from really needing to replace that. They'd love to replace it tomorrow, but it's not in the budget. So finding a solution sometimes to get you through safely for your kids, right? You want that facility to be safe for them. To kind of give you a little bit of a bridge is sometimes a solution. Again, we're in it to make money, and we'd love to sell you a field or sell you a track, but sometimes, hopefully we're building a relationship there that when I come in and say, you know what, I think we can get another 2 years out of this track. Here's what we need to do. And then you go into the head of school and you're the hero because you said, hey, I just met with these guys and, we're going to be able to string this for 2 years while we raise the money. And this is how we're going to do it and provide a plan. Then everybody takes a deep breath and everybody's not panicked about the money. And sometimes it's just a facilities assessment of what can we do right now, continue to give our kids the quality that they deserve and that they need safely until we can get where we want to be.
Well, this next one is a little bit more personal for me because prior to getting into this industry, which I feel blessed to be in, I was in capital equipment device sales. When I finished playing baseball, I went to work in sports marketing, but I ended up working for a large medical device company. One of them was Siemens Medical Systems, and we sold big MRIs and ultrasound systems and things you see in hospitals. So much of what we did, because mechanical things break, something goes wrong, and when you're dealing in a hospital situation, you've got information that's got to get passed to make a diagnosis or a decision on a surgery or things like that. So service after the sale for us was huge. I had a whole service group, but I also had the rep who was part of it too. So I ask you as sales professionals, what should a client, what should me as a customer expect post-sale? And I'm not just talking the first year, because one of the things that I used to talk about with sales reps that worked for me, and I manage guys all over the United States and into Mexico, is you've got to be around when there isn't any money to spend and create the relationship first and then maintain that relationship after the sale is done. So what kind of expectations should a client have? And I'll let you guys just jump in.
Well, and you're right. What are your expectations post sale? But more importantly, is that sales rep showing up just because he heard there's a capital campaign going on and there's money coming down the pipeline? Because you're going to get a lot of that stuff. And if your rep hasn't spent time coming by to see you when there wasn't any money and working on building that relationship and just trying to help you with the little things like, hey, you know what? We can get 2 more years out of that track. Let's clean it and let's put some new stripes on it. It's going to look brand new. We're going to help you get down the road. So if that relationship hasn't started before the money was there, then they're there for a reason. They're going to get your business and get out the door. But then on the follow-up side of that is, as a salesperson, I want to know how our product is treating you. Are you happy with it? Is there something that we can do better? What is what has been your biggest disappointment and what has been your biggest excitement with this project, because you're going to have both of those. And 6 and 7 years down the road, hopefully that product is still performing at that level, but that relationship should continue. And we're all traveling, we're all on the road all the time, but we're always in the same cities over and over and over. And so if that person's not coming by to see you 2, 3, 4 times a year, football field, if they haven't come to see you before August and they don't come to follow up after football season, you might kind of raise an eyebrow to that and say, what's going on here?
Without a doubt.
My biggest thing is the company that I work for obviously funds my paycheck. But that paycheck is provided through the relationship that I build with my clients. And I'm very forward with my clients, and I'll tell them, I've got a boss, and he somewhat dictates what I do on a day-to-day basis. But the relationship that I have is with my client, and the quality of our product, the playability of our product, that's all between me and my client. That's not between myself and Quality Hardwood Floors. So, I think it's very important as a salesperson that their relationship is not with your company or with the company they're dealing with, but with your salesperson on a very personal level. The field, the floor, the scoreboard, any of the products that we sell, aside from the building structure itself, is probably the biggest investment and the biggest asset you have inside that building or on that piece of property. We need to take that very seriously. We need to help you manage those things so that you don't have a failure with that field, floor, whatever it may be, scoreboard. So, again, if we're not communicating with you, calling every now and then saying, hey, how's everything going? Because we know you're busy. We're busy as well. And a lot of times you don't have time. Or maybe you passed it to somebody else and thought it got taken care of, but it didn't. You have an assistant, whatever it may be. We see those things a lot. I'll stop by a client and, hey, what's going on here? Well, didn't Jim call you about that? No, I never heard anything from him. Well, let's get this taken care of. So, that relationship is key. Very, very key, and it's very personal for me.
To me, when we put a wood floor in, we're talking about a 50-year floor. So, we take it very seriously because, again, and that's part of the deal is, okay, this is a costly floor, but, a 50-year floor should last through the whole building. I mean, because not many buildings are going to last 50 years without tearing it down or doing or some sort of fire or whatever. So, we take that. I get calls constantly, okay, you put a floor in, 22 years ago, put a great floor and everything like that, but, I think it's time for us to make it look pretty again. And I'm going, you hadn't done anything in 20 years? No. And then we get crazy calls, like I had a guy call and he said, you might need to come look at your floors, 3-year-old floor. I said, okay, what happened? He said, well, I had a guy talk me into having donkey basketball on the floor, and it just don't look very good anymore. And I said, okay, so you go over there, and even though they use rubber shoes on there, it's still, but most of it's fixable, and everything. So, you never get surprised. I'm sure all of us hear about some of the stuff that happens on the, get a basketball, hit the, some kid throws a basketball and hits the scoreboard, whatever. I'm just saying, there's crazy things that happen. But you got to, if you're when you're selling a big ticket item, like a scoreboard or a floor, then you got to get ready for that.
Yeah, and as far as the warranty part, as far as scoreboards, a good question to ask is, okay, what's your supply like for the different parts? Because again, if it's supposed to last for 10 years, you're going to have lots of supplies for those first 5 years, but a lot of your issues are going to start happening toward the tail end. So if the company doesn't have a plan for, hey, how are we going to fix your stuff in years 6 through 10, what are you going to do? And so just asking them, hey, what is your plan? If you're saying that this should last 10 years or your warranty is for 10 years, what do you guys do internally to make sure that happens and that you can fulfill on that? And then the other part is, honestly, again, the warranty part, that goes back to the testimony part and asking people, because again, you're going to have an issue anywhere, and a lot of it comes down to warranty and asking them, what was it like? How big of a hassle was it? How eager were they to fix the problem? And then did you leave completely satisfied, after this dilemma? So those I think are the big things.
Before we get into Q&A, I'm going to throw one thing in here that I think that if you're not doing it, you need to make sure to understand to do it. It's really, really important. You're making these big investments, regardless of what it is. If you bought bleachers, if you bought a floor, if you bought turf, no matter what it is, the products that they're making now are really incredible. I mean, the technology and the quality of the surfaces and the quality of what they're using is pretty unbelievable. But it still requires maintenance. It absolutely requires maintenance. And one of the things that you owe to yourself, to your school, to the kids and the families that use your facilities is that you have your own internal PM program using the vendors, but that you are doing regular checks on what you're doing. The easiest thing to do when you throw down a turf field is say, man, problem solved. I don't have to mow the grass anymore. This is great. But it doesn't work that way. Infills become impacted. The turf starts to lay down. You could have loose fibers. The scoreboard, same thing. Hey, everything's electronic, LED, it's wireless, it's all this stuff. Stuff happens. And if you're not checking it on a regular basis, I mean, I'm religious for football games because you can get by in a baseball game without a scoreboard, okay? But when you do football and basketball, when you don't have a clock that somebody can see, 25-second, 40-second clock that somebody can see, it is a living nightmare. You can play soccer without the clock. Hell, they don't use the clock anyway half the time. But I'm saying that it's really important that you're diligent about that and that you have people on your staff that are also have your back to check those things out on a regular basis. Because you can't do it all by yourself. I know I cannot at my school. It's impossible. And there are times I'm off campus and an event is going on. We need to make sure that everything is working the way it's supposed to and check it out in advance. But the PMs are important. That's your responsibility. In many cases, it's your responsibility in order to not void the warranty. You have to keep up with that. It's really, really important. As we get down to the last few minutes, I wanted to just throw it out there to you to ask any questions specifically to any of the panelists, myself, happy to answer. I want to say in advance, I appreciate the Mohicans here staying and grinding it out for another hour. I've found that over the years when I've gone to different conferences, baseball conferences, things of that sort, that that last one of the day, if I'm willing to stay, a lot of times I get some nuggets out of that. They were the most valuable thing that I might have gotten at a conference. So I really appreciate you guys hanging around with us. Any questions?
I'll throw one thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's absolutely right. Maintenance. And if we do not provide you with a maintenance plan upon completion of the project, something's terribly wrong. You need to make sure and request that. One of the most uncomfortable things I have to do is go out to a client who has a repair of some sort to make, and then give them a proposal for the fix. Repairs are never cheap. It's not going to cost what it might have cost per square foot to put the floor in. It is enormously more expensive. It is a big hit to your budget. So do the maintenance, and keep these things up because they are incredibly expensive to fix.
Anybody else have anything they want to add? Mark? Any questions out there from anybody? There's a time for crickets.
I think they're hungry.
Do you have a donkey basketball situation yourself?
What? I'm sorry. I've been doing this about 25 years, so I kind of. It's funny. He said he played baseball. I played football. I never did like basketball, and then I ended up selling the floor.
There you
So
go.
you never know what you're going to end up. But every time the Final Four comes up, and I went like 10 years in a row, and so every time it comes up, even though I really hadn't paid a whole lot of attention, because usually that's our busiest time of the year. When that comes up, for some reason, the hair on my neck stands up, and I kind of, oh man, I think I want to go. I might try to go and try to call and see if I can get a ticket somewhere or something. It's just, I still get that, the fix. I still have to do that, but I would, basketball is it's kind of like sports. Period. It gets in your blood, and to say what he was like. When I go and want to know what my floor really is, okay, and whether it's doing its job, I don't ask the basketball coach and the players because they're grinding. I ask the officials that are 50 years old or whatever that's running on it, got bad knees and all that, and they'll tell you, okay, so and so's high school over here, that's a good floor. I can run on that and it's good. So that's find somebody that really hadn't got a dog in the fight. They'll tell you what a good floor feels like, or how to maintain it. Even there's a lot of ways to find out things. The coaches have the best networking in the world, I think. I've never seen anything quite like it. And so coaches know.
Yeah, without a doubt. My email address, if you ever wanted to contact me I've got several projects going on right now on my campus, and have worked on a number of others. My contacts are pretty solid, and I could probably give you some pretty good advice. You can contact me at Michael, Michael, .netzel, NETZEL, at STHS.org. My mobile number is 713-385-4254. And as Steve said, I also sit in position 1 on the board for TAPPS. This is my first year on the board, so I'm learning a little bit. But we're here to make this a better TAPPS. I can assure you that. I feel real good and fortunate to be on the board, and part of that is running conferences like this and being up here and seminars or panels or whatever. We want to make these meetings better. We want to make our organization better. So, because what we do for our guys and girls is quality. It really is. We do some really good stuff, and proud to be a part of it. So, if you don't have any questions, we'll adjourn. And again, feel free to contact me. All these guys have booths here, so I would encourage you to stop by and see them if you have some specific questions, because something may come up tonight, maybe over a cocktail or a club soda, if that's your choice. And you can just see them at the booth and ask something more specific. Okay? Thanks a lot for hanging around. Appreciate it.